Good morning, Garland Nixon here, and we've got an interesting weekend ahead of us. Maybe even hours from now, the entire world could change. Israel's looking to strike Iran, irrespective of the consequences, and Ukraine has a plan for victory. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. And one of the things I think, let's see, a theme for this particular discussion, shall we say, is consequences, right? If you think about this, if you saw someone who had a child that was 4 years old and they were standing next to a superhighway and they were planning on crossing the highway and they were talking, and the child standing next to them and they're looking the other way, talking on the phone, paying no attention, and the child's looking like they want to run and they're just completely ignoring the child, how many of us wouldn't be outraged, right? Oh my gosh. Why? Because there's a potential there for that child to run out in the road and to get run over and killed, right? One child, one, right? Yet, what if there's a million children, 100 million, or a billion? Do we just say, let's take a shot at it and see what happens? Let's take a chance. Because that's apparently what's going on with the leadership of the Biden administration. They're ignoring the obvious consequences of their actions, the potential destruction of all humankind based on their actions. And it's kind of like I'm looking at it like they're backed into a corner here. And we're talking about Ukraine and Israel because it's the same dynamic. Here's what I mean. The United States has always argued we're the quote indispensable nation, right? Which implies that other nations are dispensable, right? We're indispensable. The world can't do without us. We're the exceptional nation, right? Which says what? We are the exception to all the rules. We don't have to go by the rules. Everyone else has to go by the rules, the international rules of law, except us. And whenever we choose, we can invoke those rules. We can say, we don't have to go by the rules. Darn those rules. Hey, wait a minute. You violated the same rules that we said that we don't have to go by. Why? Because we're the exceptional nation. So we don't have to go by those rules. We're the indispensable nation. We are, in effect, the effect is basically this of our claim that the world has an order, but we're not part of that order. We're in effect the God of that order, right? We are that the United States, there is an order, a natural order. And in that natural order, we are placed not in the order, but in charge of the order. And therefore, God shed his grace on thee. God bless America and nobody else, right? That God has somehow placed America as the Pope of the world, right? Of the grand priest of the world. And that as a result of that, we can do what we want and nobody else can do what they want. They have to do what we say. Kind of like if you think about slavery in America, right? Think about the argument. This is an argument that's gone along, come from a long history of colonialism, imperialism, right? Slavery in America was like this. The argument was, look, God placed this arrangement so that the American slave owning class will be in charge of the slaves. And they can do whatever they want with the slaves because God created this order and put these people in charge of these other individuals, right? And when people would say, yeah, but you kind of don't treat the slaves real nice and you rape them and you do all these other things, and their argument would be, sure, we're not perfect, and God understands that we're not perfect, but he understands that we should be in charge, right? Okay, so you've got an excuse for everything, but it's self-serving in the end. We're in charge. We can do whatever we want with the people who aren't in charge, and God understands because we're not perfect. That's kind of the whole thing going on here. That's the theme of a world order in which you can universally and unilaterally proclaim yourself as the indispensable godlike figure. All right. So let's continue. So now we come to a point, as would be inevitable in any world order, and has been inevitable in every world order, right? Empires in the past, the Greco-Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, you name it, the Mongols, you name it, where other um, world powers arise, and the current world powers begin to kind of recede. They begin to lose power. They can either lose power through their own means, mistakes, errors, greed, things of that nature, or they can lose power simply because other people get more powerful. Right, kind of like somebody has a little brother that they can push around, and they wake up one day and their little brother's 6'4", twice their size. They're like, "Holy crap! I used to push that guy around." And they're like, "Yeah, who's going to push you around now, buddy?" And either one of two things can happen. That little brother can want to get his revenge and beat the crap out of you, or your little brother can say, "I didn't like it when I get pushed around, and I'm not going to push you around either." Right? Okay. So now we are at that inflection point in society, in the world, where other powers, where we have that deadly combination of the two. The other world powers have grown, technology being a big part of that, right? Because what we use, what the US and Europe used for many, many years was a technological advantage to a very violent, as a very violent means of control, right? We got guns, you don't have guns. You got spears and arrows, we got guns. That means we can kill more of you. We got battleships, we got cannons, you don't. We've got gunpowder, you don't. Therefore, we'll take all your stuff and keep it and enslave your people and things of that nature. And why? Because God said it was perfectly fine to do. We even know because the Pope gave us a decree, said we could take your stuff. Hey, God, don't argue with me, argue with God, right? But we have that deadly combination of the two now. Number one, through greed and through um, uh, 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 anger and violence and abuse. The U.S. has mistreated other countries to the point where they don't like us, they don't trust us, and they don't want to work with us anymore. That would be the global South. We've stolen their stuff, overthrow their governments, blah, blah, blah. The West has done that for literally centuries. And we're rapidly going in debt. We have an economic system of so-called free market system that is, simply a ruse. It is a self-serving racket for the ruling elite. The ruling elite basically says, "Look, if you allow me to do anything I want to, everybody will be better off." And these are the greedy bastards that have been going around the world, killing people, stealing their stuff. And what they said is, if you allow us to do anything we want to, no regulations from the government, no nothing, just let us do whatever we want, deregulate Wall Street, all of it. We'll all ships will go up on a rising tide. So they were able to, through purchasing the government, they were able to do that. And here we sit. They got what they want. Be careful what you pray for. You might just want it. You might just get it. They got full control of the government. They've got a deregulated deindustrialized and deregulated financialized economy, everything they want. And it has dramatically weakened the West. Everything they said was the opposite. So here we sit at a point where the industrial and commodity-based economies are rising. Now, therefore, the global South being commodity based and a potential for industrial base, they're naturally going to rise. So all ships are rising, all right, outside of the neoliberal West. And the question becomes, how does the U.S. empire deal with that, right? Now, this business about saying we can do whatever we want and you can do whatever we want is being challenged. And so the U.S. basically said, okay, we got to take Russia down. We'll go to Russia's border. We'll overthrow the government of Ukraine. We'll weaken Russia. We're going to maintain a brutal, very, very, very brutal, irrational theocracy, and really, self-immolating theocracy in Israel. Israel, despite the arguments of the Israelis and a lot of people outside of the West, they're putting a hurting on Israel for all times. Israel is in a downward spiral. I mean, the idea that you can infuriate the entire world, the idea that you can just kill people and say to everybody in the world, screw you, when people all over the world are saying we don't like it, and you can just say, who cares? We can do whatever we want to. Look over our back. We got Uncle Sam, buddy. You can't do anything to us. It is, I'm going to use violence. I'm going to be arrogant. I'm going to do anything I want to. Why? Because you can't stop me. That's the only reason. Yet sooner or later, that always going to run out. The time will come, particularly when the guy over your shoulder, Uncle Sam, is running out of gas too. So all that comes to this. This is where we are now. Let's start here. All that was a lead up to this first article. Okay. Iran will retaliate against Israeli attack on energy sector. Source is okay. Iran is fully prepared to defend itself and retaliate against any potential attack by Israel, including on its oil and nuclear facilities. The source in Tehran familiar with the matter told RT. Retaliation against the potential attack will be proportionate and based on domestic and international norms. For instance, should Israel target Iran's oil infrastructure, Tehran will, in response, strike 3 main oil refineries in that country. Attacks on other infrastructure, such as power plants and nuclear facilities, will likewise prompt retaliatory strikes on respective installations in Israel. In the event that any civilians are harmed in a potential attack or that civilian targets are targeted, Tehran will be prompted to revise its nuclear doctrine. The individual told RT without elaborating. Israel has vowed a decisive response, to Iran. Our attack will be deadly, pinpoint accurate, and most importantly, surprising. They will not know what happened or how it happened. They will just see the results. Well, I'm going to make this point right now. How can it be surprising? I mean, you're sitting there telling them for like a week, or what has it been, 10, 12 days? We're going to attack you. We're going to attack you. Okay. And that attack is going to be a surprise. That is not a rational argument. How can it be a surprise? A surprise attack is when they don't know what's coming. It's like this. We're going to have a birthday party for Garland Friday. Great. Really? A birthday party? Yeah. Where's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be at the Smithers Party Hall at 12 p.m. We've got a menu. We've sent Garland an invitation that says, "Dear Garland, please come to your surprise birthday party on Friday at 8 p.m. at the Smithers Party Hall. It's going to be a surprise birthday." Just you have no idea that it's going to happen, but makes no sense. A surprise birthday party where you tell the guest of honor what time it is and what the party's about. That is kind of the opposite of a surprise, right? So they're going to have a surprise attack that they're telling Iran about. And they're saying, by the way, Iran, let me tell you what, let me give you a list of targets also while we're at it for this surprise attack. It is preposterous argument, but Israel's not at this point in time, they're not the most rational country in the world. But here's my point. What we saw 10, 12 days ago, whatever day it was, October 1st, was a attack on Israel by Iran. It was a missile attack. And basically Israel was unable to defend themselves. They were unable to defend themselves. It's kind of like me getting in a fight with you and say, okay, let's go, buddy. And I take my hands and I put both of them behind my back and I stick my chin out and say, come on, let's fight. Right. Years ago, I remember an instance of a guy who did just that. He was going to fight this guy. The guy was smaller than him. Willie was the guy's name. It was interesting. My mother's name was Willie. But at any rate, the guy had a 2x4 piece of wood, and the guy stuck his head out and dared him. And the guy smacked him in the head with a 2x4, and he ended up in intensive care. He was like literally in a coma for days. So he stuck his head, I dare you. No, really, you dare me. And you're bigger than I am. Whap! Right in the friggin' right upside of his pumpkin head. And needless to say, things didn't work out well for him, but he survived. But he wasn't happy. Okay. So what effectively, that's what Israel's doing. Israel, now, they're telling you, if you do that, we will knock the crap out of you. they have demonstrated that if you do that, they can knock the crap out of you. Iran has says, look, the days of unilateral restraint are over. We've tried, we've fooled around with you too long, and now it's over. We've given you brushback pitches, as they say. We've done everything we can to let you know we don't want to do this. But if you hit us, we'll hit you back. And if you think you're going to threaten us with nuclear weapons, don't think about it, because we can respond with nuclear weapons. There are many who believe, me being one of them, that Iran already has nuclear weapons, and they'd probably be fools if they don't. So they either do, or they could have them quickly. Let's not forget that President Putin of Russia is meeting with the president of Iran. Do I see this? Maybe even today. Let me see. Is that in? I'll check the Russian newspaper. Here we go. Let's look at this. I like to look at articles. It's an important one here. TASS. Russian Iranian positions on international events often very close, right? Okay. The Russian leader noted that both countries are actively working together on the international arena. Russia and Iran are actively working together on the international arena and are often similar in their assessment of events. We are actively working together on the international arena. See what I mean? This is the first meeting between the two presidents. Kremlin aide Yuri Yushakov said earlier that the sides will discuss bilateral issues as well as the situation in the Middle East. Russian Deputy Prime Minister, Kremlin aide, Kremlin spokesman, Deputy Foreign Minister are taking part in the talks on the Russian side. There we go. So what's going on now? Right now, the presidents of Iran and the presidents of Russia are meeting. So I don't think that's an accident, because right now the U.S. empire, through its proxy Israel, is threatening Iran. And my understanding, you probably have heard this, that Russia is heavily helping Iran. Iran is a powerful military force, but apparently Russia is helping Iran. My readings tell me this, with defensive capabilities such as electronic warfare systems. They can do things like block out GPS systems and on incoming missiles and aircraft and things of that nature, and S-400 Triumph, which is the best anti-aircraft system in the world that literally fires anti-aircraft missiles that travel at hypersonic speeds. So it will be a difficult task if Israel decides they're going to attack Iran, particularly if they send airplanes in, because they're going to be they will be in a very, very dangerous environment for enemy aircraft with very, very high level anti-aircraft networks up and running. So even though Israel says they're going to attack Iran, the task won't be easy, in that a bunch of Gulf countries have said now, I can find this, that you can't use our airspace, and because we're afraid of retaliation. A number of Gulf countries, I'll see if I see that. I don't see that. I'd have to find it. It's out there. But a number of I could, but I don't want to take my time while I'm talking to you guys. So what we're looking at is a bunch of Gulf countries in the Middle East saying, look, we're afraid of retaliation. We don't want to get punched in the face over Israel. You can't use our airspace to attack Iran, which is going to make it tough, because they will have to take a circuitous route to get there. God only knows they'll have to go way out in the ocean, go around, have to be refueled once or twice by the U.S. And then if they're going to actually use planes to attack, they're going to have to fly deep into Iran, facing very, very heavy anti-aircraft defense networks, and face electronic warfare. I wouldn't want to be the pilots. That's all I can tell you. I wouldn't want to be the pilots flying into that if I was Iran. If they fire missiles, the missiles have to go a long ways, and some of them are going to get shot down. So, as I've said before, the worst thing that Israel could do would say, we're going to launch an attack on Iran, send a bunch of planes and missiles, and the planes and missiles get shot down. And now you have a dynamic that is proven wherein Iran can hit you anytime they want and you can't hit them. The other thing is this, the escalation. What happens if Israel gets what they want? There's an old, the old saying, be careful what you pray for, you might just get it. What happens? And that's why I say world on edge. What happens? Israel says, hey, we're going to attack. And they attack and they get some missiles through and they bomb Iran. Okay, they bomb or missiles or whatever, they hit some Iranian ports. And as a result, Iran doesn't even stop. You know what I mean? There's people that say, I've told you what I'm going to do. There's no point talking, right? We'll let our missiles do the talking. What happens? Israel does that, and those planes are flying into Iran, and they see some interesting items in the sky heading in the other direction. Iran's already said what they're going to do. During the attack, as you're attacking Iran, hundreds, if not thousands of missiles are whizzing by you going in the other direction. And when you turn around and go home, if you're able to turn around and go home, you don't have no base to land at. Iran says, we told you. And it's going to be pretty dark because you're bombing Iran. And Iran said, look, we told you if you do this, we're taking out your, you whatever you attack for us, we attack for you. So really, Israel is literally choosing the targets in their country for Iran to blow up, to destroy. If Israel says we're taking out 2 power plants, then you lose 2 power plants, maybe more. Oh, we're taking out 2, 3 oil platforms. You're losing 2 oil or gas platforms. You're choosing the targets for Iran, and they're going to hit them. They're letting you know. So Israel basically has, if they attack Iran, which it seems in some way they will. I mean, let's not forget, the last time Iran hit Israel, Israel claimed to retaliate, and they just threw a couple of drones at them. It was a joke, really. Threw some 4, almost like DJI, drones back in Iran. And Iran kind of shrugged it off and laughed it off and said, okay, we'll play along. Yeah, boy, you really almost got us, huh? Ooh, that was tough. Oh, I don't know how we survived that one, right? Iranians just kind of laughed it off and allowed Israel to save face by throwing a few drones at them and, saying, we'll call it even. Now, Iran has said, this was a retaliation for something else. If you don't hit us back, we leave it at that. But Israel's in a position now that, as they say, there's a ladder of escalation. The problem that Israel has is this, though. They're naked. This ladder of you're a ladder of escalation, and you don't have a way to defend yourself. So whatever you choose for Iran are the targets that you're choosing for yourself. And you only got 5. I think Israel has 5 electrical power plants, and I think 2 of them provide 48% of the electricity for Israel. So here's my question. If they hit Iranian infrastructure and Iranian takes out those 2 power plants, how does Israel continue to prosecute the war when half of their country's black with no, what are you going to do? How are you going to get electricity? Now you're taking Israel back to the Stone Ages. The U.S. empire always says, we'll bomb such and such country back to the Stone Ages. They may get back to the Stone Ages. What do they do then? What if they say we're taking, they have very, they got refineries. What if they hit an Iranian refinery and Iran says, okay, we're hitting your refineries, whatever they hit. And Iran is a very large country. They have more refineries. They have more electrical plants, and they have multiple metropolitan centers. So they can take a punch. I always talk about it. If you go fight, you better learn how to take a punch. And you're going to fight a person who can take a lot more punches than you can. You can deliver punches. They can deliver punches. And next, what are you going to do? So Israel hits Iran's whatever points they're going to hit. Iran returns fire and hits whatever points, but Israel has much fewer, so they can't take it. So now Israel is starting to get dark because they've lost a couple of power plants, desalinization. It's becoming difficult for Israel to maintain its status as a modern society. And the people in Israel are going to be losing it. And then what? Then what? Does Israel fire a nuclear weapon at Iran, knowing that Iran has the capacity to do them dirty, whether conventionally or from a nuclear perspective? This is the rules-based international order. This is American domination being played out between Israel and Iran. Remember when I started off saying the indispensable nation, the U.S. being there's a global world order that the U.S. has been chosen by God to rule over this order. So they doesn't have go. They don't not only they both make the rules, change the rules at will, and don't have to go by those rules. You do. They can do anything they want. You can't do it. They can walk up and slap you in the face, and you better keep your mouth shut. And now that countries such as Iran, a regional power, and to some extent, you can start arguing that its effect, because of its ability to affect the world economy, can be a world power to some extent, is saying, nope, we ain't playing along. I mean, it's like when you make rules for somebody. I remember when my daughter was young, I told her, I said, look, let me explain something to you about power and about your individual power. I think she was about 10, 11. I can say to you, you better do this. And you can say no. I can say, if you don't, I'll fill in the blank. I'll punish you. I'll spank you. I'll throw you off a cliff. I can say anything I want to and threaten you. And your response can be, you can do those things. Sure. And I can't stop you. Yeah, but you can't make me do what it is you want to do. I wanted her to understand her power, right? The power that we all have, the individual power. I first thought about that when I read Gandhi, and they said, well, you better do this. And he said, nah, you can put me in jail. You can kill me. Then you got to do something with my body, but you can't make me do it. Right? When someone gets to that point, you got a problem because they're calling your hand, they're punching your ticket, right? If someone is in a dominant relationship and they tell their significant other, you better do this. And they're saying, okay, I'll do, you better do this. But what happens when they tell that boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, you better do this? Person says, no. If you don't, I'm going to punch you, do this, take your money, whatever. And the person says, you can do, sure, I can't stop you from doing that. But the answer is still no. So whatever you're going to do, you do it. But the answer is still no. You can kill me. But the answer is no. You got to do what you got to do. I can't stop you from doing what you got to do. But the answer remains no. It's now the decision is up to you how you're going to react. You got my final decision. It is a no. See, that's the ultimate power that all human beings have. Somebody can threaten your life and you can say, you can kill me. Yeah, but you can't make me do it. A lot of people they made that choice in life where someone says, you better tell me where your brother is so we can, the government will tell me where Joe is. He's a member of the resistance. You've seen that movie, the movies, right? They bring some guy in there. You're a member of the resistance, and the evil empire says, you must tell me the resistance. Where are they? Give me all the information. The person says, no. I'll torture you. I'll kill you. And the person says, yeah, I kind of figured you were going to do that. But the answer is no, I ain't telling you. Nothing, giving you nothing, ever. Do what you got to do. Now, they can torture the person, they can kill them, but they ain't getting any information. What have they accomplished? They can do that if they just want to do it. The answer is no. When you run into that, you've lost. You've been overpowered. The person has punched your ticket. They've called your bluff. And what we have now in Ukraine and in Iran is the U.S. empire's proxies. Via its proxies, their bluff has been called. Their ticket's been punched. Because what Iran is Israel saying, we'll do this. Iran says, yeah, you can do that. I can't stop you. But if you do, put a foot in your ass. You do that. Yeah, well, we're really going to do it. I ain't say you ain't. You can do it. We'll nuke you. You may nuke us. That's up to you. We can't stop you from nuking us. But you nuke us, it's suicide. So your decision. And now, if you think about it, it's we will attack your nuclear power plants. Can't stop you from doing that. You can do it. But your threats don't scare me. You hit our power plants, we hit yours. So basically, you might as well take those missiles that you're going to fire at our power plants and go fire them at your own, because you're going to blow your own up too. Every missile that hits our power plant is effectively 10 missiles that are going to hit yours. So you blow our power plant up, we blow yours up 10 times over. You blow our refinery up, we blow yours 10 times over. So what you now have is you have even a worse scenario than I originally said, because my original scenario is this. Someone says, you better do this. And you say, no, you can kill me, you can jail me, you whatever, but I ain't going to do it. You've lost the battle. But what happens? when you tell that person and that person says, my boys are out there on the street and they're going to want revenge. If you kill me, they're going to kill 10 of your people. If you blow up, if you torture me, we're right here in your headquarters here, they're going to blow it up and you can't stop them. So you decide. You kill me, they kill 10 of your people. You kill me, you torture me, they're going to blow your headquarters sky blue. Now, they know that you can kill a bunch of them, but you ain't going to be around to see it. So whatever. You know that. You can do whatever you want, but you ain't going to be around to see the results because they're going to kill you. So your decision. You attack me, you kill me, you torture me, you're committing suicide. Something to think about, isn't it? That's effectively what Iran is saying. Iran's saying you can bomb us, but we do the same thing to you. You can nuke us, but you might as well blow that nuke up in your own capital because the same thing's coming back to you. What do you want to do? And now I don't see it as Israel. I see it as the U.S. empire. Israel is attempting to execute the U.S. rules-based order. When all comes down to it, it's I can do whatever I want. You can't stop me. So now Iran saying, maybe I can't stop you. Maybe I can. But payback ain't going to be fun. Meanwhile, what do we have in Ukraine? The Russians, same thing. They said, you can't come to our border. You can't expand to our border. You can't overthrow a country on our border and then load it up with missiles and nukes and point everything at us. Ain't happening. And now, if you remember, the language was rules-based order language before the war, when the Russians in December of 2021 sent a document to the US and NATO and said, look, we got whatever it was, 10 things we're concerned with you coming up to our border. We need to talk about them for a new security agreement. And what was the response of the US and NATO? The US said, this is not even a starting point. In other words, this is a rules-based order. You don't push back. We do anything we want. We're going to come to your border and we're going to put any missile and nuke and everything we want. There's nothing you can do about it. Shut up. Jens Stoltenberg, Russia doesn't get a vote. In other words, look, dude, yeah, I think you don't understand what's going on here. We're in charge and you ain't. Shut up. So in the same way that Iran said, look, we ain't playing that no more. It's over. Russia said the same thing. These are more than anything challenges to the rules-based international order. Challenges. This is a challenge to the U.S. argument that we have been chosen by God to rule over the world. And because we've been chosen by God, we will make the rules. We will violate the rules. We will not be held accountable by anyone. And you will do what we say when we tell you. And we can do the opposite. There's nothing you can do. It's over. Resistance is futile. We are the Borg. And now Iran says, no, you ain't. And Russia says, nah, you ain't the Borg. Because if you want to be the Borg, you must be able to enforce that kinetically. See, as long as you tell people, as long as the person says to his or her significant other, you better do what I won't tell you to do, and the person's significant other says, yeah, okay, and they do it, works out fine. They don't have to kinetically enforce it, right? They don't have to physically enforce it because the person has the mind. You've probably heard this before. The most valuable weapon of the slave owner is the mind of the slave. The person that believes they're a slave. As soon as they say, I'm no longer a slave, you don't control them anymore. And if somebody's in a relationship, as long as they tell somebody what to do and scream and yell at them and that person accepts it, that's the person who is being abused, who is their mind is the greatest weapon of the abusive person. Because they're saying it. But what happens when the person says, I ain't doing that no more? You better do it or I'm yell. You can yell. You better do it or I'm going to hit you. You can hit me. You better do it or I'll fill in the blank. You can do all those things, but you can't make me do it. And what happens if that person now goes out and they spend 2 years taking martial arts courses and they become a deadly martial arts and the person says, you better do it or I'll do this to you. And the person says, I'll kick your ass because I got a black belt now. And if you do that, you're going to catch hell. It's going to be a fight. Do you really want this fight? So a woman says to the guy, I'm now a black belt. I'm going to poke your eyes. I'm going to bite you, kick you in the groin, snap your fingers, all kind of terrible things. So now let's see. Go ahead and you enforce it physically now. Now the guy has to make a decision. Does he really want to tangle with someone who has a black belt and a keto? Might not work out. He's got to make a decision. Does he want to take some punches and injuries? He may win, he may not, but it ain't gonna be fun, right? So now he's attempting to enforce his domination. And this person says, number one, you have to enforce that domination physically because you can't enforce it mentally anymore. I ain't going to do what you want. And number two, I am prepared. I am physically prepared to defend myself. If you attempt to enforce that physically, you got to fight on your hands and you know it. Let's dance or get the hell out of my face. So in two instances, the two big proxies, the rules-based international order is facing the challenge of all challenges. That's why people are afraid that the world is in danger. It's what will the United States do? Not Israel, screw Israel. Not Ukraine, and no such thing. What will the U.S. do when its proxies say the rules-based order still stands? That's what Israel's saying to Iran. The rules-based order stands. What's wrong with you? We can do whatever we want. You can't do anything. And Iran's saying, no, it don't. And if you want the rules-based order, you saw what happened in Ukraine, didn't you? Your old Uncle Sam there said to Russia, the rules-based order stands, and we can do whatever we want in Ukraine on your border. And Russia said, maybe you can. Maybe you can. But I guess we're going to have to find out now, ain't we? Let's dance. And now Iran is saying in the Middle East, Israel, you'll do what we tell you or else. Yeah. Let's find out what this or else is. Let's dance. You throw the first blow and wait and see what happens. Do you really want to do that? Does that guy really want to say to his girlfriend or wife that he's been abused and mistreating for these many years, and now she's gone out and she's worked out, she's studied, and she's been at the dojo 5 days a week for 2 years, and she's a black belt and a keto and white crane kung fu and all kinds of things. And he don't know what she knows. He don't know how deadly she is, but he knows she's deadly. And she finally says, I had enough of you, asshole. Well, you're going to do what I tell you. I'm not. What you going to do about it? And he's like, oh, no. Do I really want to take a chance here? Then I'm going to grab this little, because what would be the most humiliating thing for that guy, right? He's been pushing his girlfriend, wife around for years. Do what I tell you. Boom. And he pushes her and she cries. Pushes her, she cries. And this time he walks up to her. Come on. Bring it. I want no trouble, buddy. But let's go. And he's like, better think about this. Because the worst possible outcome for that guy is to grab that little woman and wake up in the emergency room with all kind of bones broken, eyes gouged, the ears mangled. Terrible things happened to him. That would be the worst case scenario, wouldn't it? For him to tell her I'm going to force her to do something, for her to say no, for him to attempt to use kinetic force and get his ass lit up. That's the decision he has to make. Now he's going to enforce his rules-based order on her, right? Imagine this. Israel's looking at the same thing. Iran, I can do this. And Iran's now in a position. And you know good and damn well. You already know. You don't have to guess. You know they can hit you with missiles. You know they have their own indigenous air defense system, which is good. You also know that they now, and you know what's happening in Ukraine. You know what that S-400 will do. You know what Russian electronic warfare systems will do. And you don't know how much Russia has given them. But you know they're armed to the teeth, defensively armed to the teeth. You going to send your planes into that mess, not knowing if your planes are going to come back? That's a decision to make. And the world's waiting. Because what the world really sees right now, this weekend, through Iran's threat is the rules-based international order. Because if Israel does all this woofing and backs down, hey, we're going to get you, Iran. Iran says, all right, we're ready. Let's go. You strike. Bring it. And you go, that guy looks at the girlfriend / wife, and she says, I had enough of your crap, and I'm ready to fight you. I'm trained. Let's dance. She does takes her stance and she's ready, man. She is prepared. She's got a plan. She's been planning for months. She knows every part of his body. She's her whole training, everything was to kick your ass. And she's ready for whatever you do. And she's got years of built up anger in her. Buddy, you better be right. And you imagine the guy says, okay, then I'm going to. And she's like, and he looks in her eyes and he knows, buddy, let's do this. And he goes, you know what? Tell you what I'm going to do. You're not getting away with this. I'm not going to beat you up right now. But trust me, your day's coming. I don't like you being smart with me. And one of these days, maybe not right now, I'm going to give you a break because I'm going to be nice. I don't want to hurt you. But you better watch it. And he walks away. He ain't coming back no more. He might as well pack his shit and leave. She has dominated. She has put him in his place. The dynamic has changed. Because she's going to say, you sure? I mean, I'm ready. You want to dance? We can dance. Nah, I don't want to hurt you. That's what it is. I don't want to hurt you. So I'm going to spare you this time. Off he goes, right? She's like, you let me know whenever you're ready, buddy. You just give me a call. Right? So what happens? If right now Israel says to Iran, we were going to blow you up, but we're not going to do it right now. The whole world looks and says, boy, that rules-based order ain't much, is it? You just got chunked, punked. Who else will listen? That's the problem that the U.S., it's not Israel that the U.S. empire has. And the U.S. empire has to pretend right now, they're pretending, and here's the pretense. We're trying to pull Israel back because we're rational. That's their only out. Their out is to play like they're the good guys and the rational guys. We don't want Israel to do this because if Israel does that, then it's going to cause problems. And we don't really want those problems because we're the nice guys. They're trying to find a dynamic in which it doesn't come down to Iran punked them. Everybody knows where the power dynamics and the kinetic dynamics and what's going to happen. Iran has been clear. They've made their point with their missiles more than once. Israel's been clear. We're the bad guys. We're the tough guys. Everybody knows everything's on the table. It's all set up. And everybody's just sitting there watching with popcorn. What's going to happen? That's what everybody's watching. What's going to happen? U.S., Israel, Iran, Russia. It's going to happen. And there's more than that at stake, because do not underestimate the importance of the military technology aspect of this. The U.S. is trying to sell these overpriced flying pianos called F-35s. You really want to send them in against S-400s? They're, what do you call it, stealth and all that. Oh, you've got country, you get 10. You got to get, all these countries got to get F-35s. And they fly in to attack Iran. What if they didn't get to the S-400s? What if Iran shoots it down with its own indigenous systems? They come in there, man. What happens if they send a squadron of F-35? Let's say they send 15, 20 F-35s into Iran. Ha, ha, ha. You're going to get it now, Iran. And they all get shot down. It's going to be a little hard to sell them around the world, because Russia's going to be like, everybody, if you're afraid of getting shot down, of getting attacked by the U.S. with their F-35s, their deadly thing, just get yourself a couple of these S-400s and tell them shut up and stay out of your airspace. And if they come in, you're going to shoot them down, because everybody knows that's what's going to happen. You know, it's one thing to talk trash. It's another thing to put yourself out there and prove that you can, what you can do. That will be the beginning of the end for the military industrial complex here. The whole world will look at them and say, geez, you don't have much of a chance against the Russians. And then where's NATO stand? NATO has got all of these F-35s that we're building up our airfields and all our F-35s in case we got to go against Russia. And Russia's like, I think we see how that's going to turn out if you guys should decide to get froggy. I think one need only look at the results of the attack on Iran. So they are risking the aura of air superiority that they're trying to, the narrative of air superiority that they're pushing worldwide with these F-35s. They're risking that. They're risking that. They go in there and they all get shot down. I mean, come on, you can't scare Iran with them. They ain't gonna work out so well against Russia and China. One has to suspect if Iran. And um, I think you're seeing right now the Ukraine effect, and that is, and this the fear of the Ukraine effect. For the last 2 years, the U.S. has been throwing weapon after weapon after Wunderweapon after Wunderweapon at Russia in Ukraine, and Russia's learned how to use electronic warfare to stop different missiles and shoot different things down and things of that nature, right? To a point where they've taken various missiles home, different kinds of technologies. They've taken that back to Russia. They reverse engineered it so they can figure out its weaknesses. All of these things have been going on, right? And so now that they have this technology, no doubt shared with their allies, they're now in Iran and they're prepped to see if it works. I think the Russians are like, all right, let's roll. I mean, I'm sure they don't want war. No, certainly not, or instability or attacks on Israel. But I'm sure there are a lot of Russian scientists and technology specialists and engineers and things of that nature are saying, okay, we've been working on this stuff the last 2 years. We got to figure it out. Let's see. Bring it on in, and we're going to see if our electronic warfare, which is tuned perfectly to stop this stuff, and our anti-aircraft systems that are just set to shoot this stuff down, let's see if it works. And if it does, game, set, and match. That's it for NATO. They're done. Which this is, I mean, if you think about it, this is the equipment that NATO is using. If they attack Iran and this equipment is thwarted, what is that? Where's NATO at that point? Their equipment is now proven ineffective against the Russians. And if it's ineffective against the Russians, we know that the Russians are going to share their technology with their allies because they're doing it with Iran. This is the big cheat. This is everything that right now, the Israeli threat to attack Iran, everything, they're putting it all out there. This is the big risk. This is it. You're risking your authority to rule over the world, because if Iran says no and if you don't attack, then everybody's going to say you're bluffing. But you'd be better off to do that. If you do attack and technologically your stuff gets shot down and your attack is thwarted, what you have now is this. Iran can attack Israel anytime they want, and they're immune from attacks by Israel. Not saying that that's what will happen, but if theoretically, if they're able to completely shoot down Israel's missiles, shoot down Israel's planes, that would mean they're immune. If they're able to shoot down most of them, if they're able to shoot down enough of them to seriously damage Israel, add this, Israel's starting to run out of planes. And now it becomes, okay, Israel, you lost 10 planes attacking us, and we knocked the crap out of you with a bunch of missiles again. Are you going to send 10 more? You're going to lose 10, 12, 15 every time. How many raids can you do on us before you run out of planes? And everybody can see your stuff don't work so well against Iranian and Russian technology. How are you going to convince people to buy all the stuff that don't work? And how are you going to convince all the countries in NATO that you can protect them from Russia when you can't protect yourself from Iran? It's not a wise move for the U.S. empire to go after Russia. I mean, go after Iran/Russia. I don't think people are like, will Russia jump in? I don't think Russia has to jump in. I think in the same way that the U.S. is arming Ukraine to the teeth, that Russia's position is two can play at that game. We will arm Iran, which is already very, very powerful, and on the defensive. We will arm them with high-tech defensive systems. The same thing you're doing there, we're going to help them out. And we're going to help them with targeting. We're going to help them. I mean, if you listen to those who haven't watched it, watch the show I did the other day with Andrei Martyanov and Scott Ritter. Look, Russia has very powerful radar, very powerful bases, a lot of power. They've got their two bases in Syria, right next to Israel. So if a bunch of aircraft takes off from Israel like they're heading for Iran, as soon as they take off, Russia's going to see it. You think they ain't going to share all of that with Iran immediately? So as soon as a whole bunch of things take off like they're heading for Iran, Russia's going to be like, okay, there they are. Here's the targeting. Here's this. Here's that. Here's the route they're coming. They're going to see them coming. They're going to watch them all the way. Let's not forget, Russia has space-based technology and intelligence. They're going to see everything. The Iranians are going to know everything that's going on in the same way that the U.S. is using their space-based intelligence to assist Ukraine. So long before you get there, Israel, Iran's going to be waiting. And as soon as you start firing, all their targeting's coming back at you. So you're going to get hit hard, just even while you do it. And let's say that happens, this fight happens. Boom, Israel hits Iran, Iran hits Israel back immediately, right? The world's going to look at that and say, let's evaluate. The next day will be evaluation day. It will be what happened, right? There was an exchange, and people are going to say who got the better of the exchange, and we'll talk about it at that point. But Israel's a small country, and they can't take the punches that Iran can take. Number one. Number two, what do you think's going to happen to the price of oil? And Iran may just close down the Straits of Hormuz. And even if they don't do anything, that exchange is going to jack up the price of oil. And Americans are going to wake up and say, holy crap, what the hell, $5, $6 a gallon. And if it really goes bad and Iran shuts down the Straits of Hormuz and starts really going bad, Americans are going to wake up and say, what the hell look at the price of gas and oil. And what's going to happen to things in the supermarket? Everything goes through the roof, and our economy is going to, weeks before the election. 3 weeks before an election. And that's pretty much it for not just the Biden, Democrats will get wiped out. So they got everything on. It's interesting that this all comes together at this particular time, because it would be death to the political death to the Democrats. So they don't want political death. But at the same time, do they sacrifice their politics and everything for this rules-based international order? What a mess they find themselves in. Now, add this. You have the Ukraine conflict, which is the exact proxy war, which is the exact same thing. Ukraine's, getting what they eventually would have gotten always. Clearly, that, this proxy war is, on Russia's border. As Barack Obama said, Russia has escalatory dominance. We had to get here sooner or later, wherein Ukraine's losing, and they're going to lose, and there's nothing you can do about it. And what Russia's doing is what I would probably do if I were president of Russia. I'd say, this works for me. I'm going to bash Ukraine to pieces. I'm going to wipe out anything that even looks like a military potentiality. And so that even after this is all over, there ain't going to be nothing for you to rearm. There's going to be no military for you to rebuild. And the people, if the U.S. comes in and says, all right, now let's rearm those in Western Ukraine so they can fight Russia again, the people in Western Ukraine are going to say, well, first of all, we've got generations that are dead, so there ain't nobody to rearm. And number two, I don't think I want another slice of that pie. Do you see what just happened to us the last couple of years? You think you're going to rearm us so we can do that again? Not a good idea. I think they're going to get, let's just say that Russians came up to the Dnieper River, took everything, and just said, West, you can have the West. You can have the West. It's yours. And the U.S. says, great, we're going to put missiles in, we're going to do this, and we're going to have Ukrainians all going to be ready to fight. And the Russians and the Ukrainians would be like, man, I'm sorry, West. I'm sorry, U.S. Last time that didn't work out so well for us. Not that the Russians would let them do it anyway, but to motivate the Ukrainians to go back into that, good luck. And not only that, I think one of the things we're going to be dealing with soon is, as winter comes, and I think Russia has already significantly degraded the energy capacities of Ukraine, and they probably maybe will some more. You're going to have a mass refugee crisis. Might I add, if the Israelis start running out of energy, there'll be a mass refugee crisis from Israel. They'll get the hell out of there. People will be coming to all going out. You'll see Israelis all going all over the world, wherever they can. They'll get a refugee crisis. And of course, if they get a huge war in the Middle East, bad news. Europe, you think there's a whole lot of people from Africa and the Middle East there now. You ain't seen nothing yet. There will be tens of millions, literally tens of millions of Middle Easterners flooding in to Europe to escape the war. So that's it for Europe. If this happens, that's it. First of all, and when they get there, there ain't gonna be no energy. It's gonna be everybody's gonna be freezing to death. Curtains for Europe if they're able to get this conflict going. Curtains for Europe. The refugee crisis of all refugee crises, and the lack of energy at the time you got a refugee crisis, and a refugee crisis from Eastern Europe, where the imagine this, because there's going to be a refugee crisis from Ukraine because they don't have the power and it's getting cold. Here comes this refugee crisis, a couple million Ukrainians flooding into Western Europe. Then you got a war in the Middle East, tens of millions of Middle Eastern refugees coming in. It's over for Europe. Oh, and by the way, you can't afford anything because the Iranians have blocked all energy. And might I add, the Russians have said, we're cutting you off. Sorry, bad news, guys. We're sick and tired of selling you gas and stuff. We're just going to sell it to the Chinese. Oh, by the way, gas is $300. The oil is $300, $400, $500 a barrel. And what do the Russians sell again? Oil. And gas is through the roof. And what do the Russians sell again? Gas. So you create a dynamic where the Middle East goes to hell. The energy crisis is unthinkable. And Russia sells energy. They will very quickly become the richest. They will be challenging China for the richest country in the world as down goes Fraser, as they said, down goes U.S. imperialism. So it's a mess, and we got to laugh because that's who we are. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? You know, I've always said, you know, if the nukes were coming, you know, what would I do? People would run around. I've got to call my friends. I've got to do. Okay, you got 20 minutes. We're all going to die, right? That's on TV. Nukes are coming. What would I do? Well, there was a famous Zen discussion, which was just that, where some Zen monks were sitting. One guy's peeling potatoes, one guy's doing something else, another guy's doing something else. Zen masters, and someone walks up to him and says, "What would you do if you found out we were all going to die in 30 minutes?" And one says, "Well, I would do Zazen, you know, walking Zen." I would do the other one. I would do sitting Zen. You know, that basically, they're Zen masters. They're going to meditate, right? And the other one sit there peeling potatoes. And he says, and they say to him, "What would you do?" And he says, "Are you kidding? I got all these potatoes to peel." In other words, I just keep doing what I'm doing. So I mean, if I heard some alarm, woo! What is that? That's the nuclear alarm. Phones went off. Nuclear weapons. Find shelter. Garland, what are you going to do? Call a family member, your loved ones, try to do something? Nah. Walk outside, maybe take a walk, maybe sit there and watch whatever I'm watching on TV, read a book. What the hell at that point? Hell, well, a million years from now, what difference is it going to make? So I'd be whatever I was doing, I just continue doing it. What the hell? We're all out of here. Look, to me, life-wise, we got to get out of jail free card. Here's what it means. Think about it. We're all alive right now, right? 100 years from now, we'll all be gone. 1,000 years from now, we will all have been dead for 1,000 years. Effectively, we didn't even exist. What about 100,000 years from now? What about 100 million years from now? What about 500 million years from now? Effectively, we didn't even exist. We were just like a bubble in the ocean. Woo, pop, and that bubble's gone. Did that bubble ever really exist? It was there for a billionth of a trillionth of a second. Nobody really knew it was there, and it popped anyway. So does that bubble matter? No, it was here, but in a way, it wasn't really. It was here when it was here. And that's with us. We're here while we're here, but were we really here 1,000 years from now when there's nobody alive? There's no record that we were here. There's no nothing. Were we ever really here? Maybe we were. You can argue that we were. You can argue that we weren't. But while we're here, we got to enjoy it. And it's important to be here right now in the moment. 1,000 years from now, that won't matter. That being said, why should I be afraid? Look, to be afraid of nuclear war is to be afraid of death. When you realize you're going to die one day anyway, and you have no, I could be like, oh my God, I'm afraid of nuclear war. Then I walk outside, slip, bang my head on the sidewalk and die. But I was afraid of nuclear war. The doctor tomorrow, Garland, you've got fill in the blank, you got 6 months, right? So there ain't no nuclear war. We don't need nuclear war to die. We can die of anything. That being said, when you accept that you're no longer afraid of death, and you know that everybody's going to die, and you don't know when, what is there to be afraid of nuclear war? It's just reality. It is what it is. We have a nuclear war. If we don't, we're all going to die anyway. Mankind's going to, at some point, we'll all be gone anyway. So what the hell? If it's now, or if it's 100,000 years from now, or if it's a week from now. I mean, all we got is right now, and I'm enjoying right now. And right now, I think I'm finished. How's that? So that's where we are. An interesting time. You know, you've heard the term interregnum, right? When the old has died and the new has yet to be born. Kind of just a time between this and that. So we're sitting here when the rules-based international order is kind of teetering on the edge. And Iran has said, I ain't accepting it anymore. And Russia said, I ain't accepting it anymore. And China has said, I ain't accepting it anymore. Africa now is saying, get these French and American bases out. I ain't accepting it anymore. Clearly, the rules-based international order is a zombie concept. It's dead, but the people that are trying to push it don't know it's dead. I guess they're going to find out soon. Make sure you share this on all your social media platforms. Share it with all of share it everywhere. Of course, as you know, you can look, there's patreon.com, buy me a coffee. There's lots of ways. You can go to my Substack. Certainly, if you want to become a member, I think it's like $4.99 a month. I'd certainly appreciate that. There's a lot of ways to support this channel. I would appreciate it if you could. But one of the big ways is to share it on all your social media platforms. Peace. I'm out.